We are live.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is ROCKINMRMAGIC, and he is,
Unique DNA.
and we at Jeek Nation are joined today with a special guest, two special guests, actually. First, I'll introduce our good friend Ishmael Street of That Is Not a Noun.
What up, what up, what up?
Welcome, my friend. This is another appearance from Mr. Street. I think number 3, number 4, I'm losing count. But lastly, we are going to introduce our most special guest. He is a basketball head. He is a author of a very successful comic book with his partner Marcus Williams, To See He Airs. And he has a new project that we're going to ask him about. Greg Burnham. Greg, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Glad to have you here, sir. So we're going to be focused for once, unlike most episodes that we do. And we're going to be focused on you.
We're going to try anyway.
We're going to try. Be focused on you and your project. So before we go too deep into it, why don't you tell everyone where they can follow you on social media and follow the search for Sadiqah?
So I'm on Instagram. It's stupid Greg _ Burnham BURNHAM 7, and then I'm just Greg Burnham on Facebook, and then the search for Sadiqah, just like it's spelled under the little graphic, on Instagram, Facebook as well.
Search for Sadiqah, y'all. Make sure you like that page on Facebook. I liked it. You should like it too. So talk to us about the search of Sadiqah.
Man, so it's I'm gonna flash it right here. This is the origin issue. Everything's backwards, so it's like I feel like off center. But anyway, it's the so it's actually a historical action adventure. There's some fantasy elements in it. It takes place like in the 1920s, like 1921 to be exact.
Okay.
And it stems from the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots.
Greenwood, okay.
Yeah. So I watched this documentary a few years ago, and I went to sleep, and this stuff happened. Popped up in a dream, like just like a young lady who escapes there, who escapes it, and sets on this quest like across the Southwest United States. So it's like I always be trying not to like spoil anything for the readers, but yeah, so it's filled with some like lesser known history type stuff, a lot of action adventure, but she's going on this quest to find a mythological ancestor, and hopefully so she could come back and exact, in her mind she wants to exact a little revenge upon the people.
Understandably so.
Right. So I did a Kickstarter for the origin issue last year.
Okay.
And so now we're working. We're like 2/3 of the way done with the book. So we're gonna go ahead and launch this Kickstarter, try to get everything out to people like the beginning of January.
Nice. Okay. Very nice. So when it comes to developing this particular book, you mentioned the historical references. Is that going to be a continuous theme throughout the search for Sadiqah, or is that just how you're building the premise of the story?
No, it's there's certain elements to it. So there's going to be like people that are chasing after her. There's still going to be stuff that's happening in Tulsa. One of the things, and I hate that I forgot the name of the documentary, but the documentary, like, I'm a history major, and I learned about Black Wall Street a long time ago. But this documentary, it's like it showed me stuff that I really didn't, either I didn't learn it or I didn't process it.
Gotcha.
About how after it was over, they locked up a lot of the Black people. Some people got away, they went into their homes, into their businesses, and they just stole. They pillaged.
Everything.
They took everything that was valuable. Then they burned, the stuff to the ground, and then the city ended up taking over the land. You know, so as much as they try to paint these things as, just like a race riot that went bad or something, these are methodical, attempts. They're like hijackings. You know what I'm saying? And so with that, I want to, there's still going to be stuff happening because I want to kind of expound upon that in a way where I don't know everything about it, but I'm going to be able to kind of, and I just feel like nobody knows. I think a lot of the stuff is buried, so it's just kind of a way to keep that, keep people processing, how this stuff really went down. Like when you look at like Seneca Village in New York,
people don't know about most people.
Right.
Was a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the money lost. I mean, that property's worth $5 billion right now.
Yeah, and even it's crazy because I just read about. So I'm based, in the Atlanta area. We have like a man-made lake out here, Lake Lanier, and I just recently read up that they, part of that lake, there used to be a black town. And then, so it's the same thing. So there, this happened all over the United States. That's why that pull yourself up by your bootstrap stuff is such a joke to me, because every time that we've, really put together a really strong movement, self-sufficient, and like, you guys know the story, man. Tulsa, black people were living, better than white people. That was part of it. It wasn't, just hatred. It's that jealousy and that envy. You know what I'm saying? So, there's just so much. I can't just leave, like have her leave, and then leave that whole scene. So, there's a little side story that happens that's kind of running congruent. So
okay,
cool,
awesome. So, what inspired you to take this step into writing a different type of book that's still within the historical realm, as you guys like to do?
Oh man, so I started writing it. I was like, I'm gonna write my first novel, but I just saw like the reaction we get with Tuskegee Heirs, or like my children's books. When you go to a lot of conventions and you sit at these tables and you see you directly see how these images impact people. So you have like with Tuskegee Heirs, we have a lady she's got to be like around 65 years old. She cosplays one of our characters.
Awesome.
Wow.
The first time we met her, we were doing a panel at a convention, maybe in North Carolina. I can't remember where we were, but she was sitting in the front row with her husband, and I kept looking like, she had on glasses, but I was like, is she crying? Like, what's going on here? And she was like, because she was constantly doing like this, and she was like saying, like, my whole life I always wanted to see, this is a 65-year-old intelligent woman with a professional, like,
Right.
and she said, my whole life I've wanted to see somebody in this arena that looked like me.
Wow.
She was like, she's got the glasses, she's got the hair, she looks just like me, and I just want to thank you guys.
Wow.
And then she was like, I'm gonna cosplay your character, and we're like, okay. And she did it. She built the costume herself.
Wow.
She goes to all these different conventions. Like, she was at a convention in DC, and they had like professional photographers out there. So you see that all the time, right? We get to see it, and it's like, I just feel like whatever I have in me, I gotta, show this representation.
Wow.
Like, literally today, a guy that I know, his wife and his daughter cosplay, and I've been seeing her since she was like 5. Now she's like 8 or 9. She's starting to look like an older human. And he sends me a video, and they made Sadiqah's staff like, right?
Wow.
And he was like asking me specifics. He was like, "What color is her vest exactly?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Y'all not about to do that. You're not about to do that." He's like, "We about to do that." I'm like, And he's saying his daughter requested. She wanted to do it.
Wow.
So that gives us all the fuel that we need to, kind of tell these stories.
Absolutely. I mean, for a while, the background on my iPad was Colonel Mars, and I would love to cosplay. I got to lose some weight first. Got to get in the gym. Got to get it. But yeah, I would love to cosplay as Colonel Mars. I was like, okay, here's somebody that I could look like. Unfortunately, I'm getting a little gray, so that'll fit too. He's got them gray on them temples. But yeah, that's super dope. That's awesome. So we have Sadiqah is a teenage girl, correct?
Yeah, she's 13.
13 years old. Okay. So that's a bit different compared to most women of color heroes that we see, in mainstream books. Storm, even though it's the X-Men are, youngsters. I mean, they're grown adults. Spectrum, Misty Knight, most characters that we see, especially Black women, are generally of age. But you've got a teenager being your primary protagonist. Is there and being that, is there a reason why you picked a teenager that escaped from Greenwood compared to an adult?
I think partly because there's this thing like this mind state that I want to inspire like youth. They're getting to see stuff. So like I'm thinking like there's Luna Lafayette. You familiar with Devil the Dinosaur Girl? Devil Dinosaur. Yeah. So there are a couple, of younger heroes like in, the big 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Bumblebee. Sometimes they make her, young.
Williams as Ironheart.
Yeah. So it's kind of like inspiring the youth. Like we always talk about it, and we're like, all this stuff that we didn't see that we wish we would have seen growing up. Like these kids now, they're getting to see it, and we want it to be normal for them to see it. But I always, talk about agency, right? Like Marvel, DC, those kind of guys, they can take those characters and do whatever they want with them and everything. We've seen so many times where, it can be like a Black lead character or whatever, but the story's not really centered in Blackness. So that's one of the cool things. What we're doing is we get to center that Blackness, to the point where it's like you might, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, but it's like you might not see other races and maybe an issue of a book.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not done in a kind of exclusive kind of way. We're not telling other people they can't enjoy the story. We're just telling our stories, So
our stories don't involve people of other races at times.
Right. And I always laugh. We had a lady. We were doing this interview at MomoCon a couple of years ago. God, I miss conventions, man. I'm sorry.
Listen,
we miss con season 2. Like it's affecting a lot of people. And these feel.
But this lady, she asked a question. She's like, "I love what you guys are doing. I just want to know, do you guys have any like Caucasian characters or any, And we're like, well, we have an Asian, character that's part of the cast and crew. And, we've got other characters that pop up, I was like, because she was like saying, I want my daughter to have somebody to relate to. And I was like, and there were people there were people that was like, what? And, I was looking at Marcus and Marcus was looking at me. And I'm like, I got this, man. I can do this. And so I asked her, I said, how old is your daughter? She's like, oh, she's 14. What type of music does she listen to? Oh, she loves hip hop. She loves hip hop music. And I was like, okay, all right. So do you feel like she could, there's somebody that she can relate to in that? She's like, oh, I see your point. I was like, right, yeah, she probably already a fan of stuff that Black people do, And then
No, she listens to Iggy Azalea.
that's not hip hop. But then I took it one step further and I told her, I said, part of why we do what we do is because we have to ask ourselves that question all the time.
Right.
We had to like trick ourselves into, Star Wars and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we want to be a part of that, but they had like one Black man in the universe.
Yeah. Well, they had two.
Well, no, they added him later on. Let's go.
I'm talking about
one Black man in the entire universe. All them planets, there was one Black man.
What about Jar Jar Binks?
No.
Don't even get me started.
We're not even allowed to say him. Like he doesn't exist. But yeah, so it's like that's something that we've had to deal with our whole lives, is trying to enjoy this medium with very little representation. And
Indeed.
like it was, if you could have seen some of the people, it's like the audacity. But I used it as a moment to kind of teach. And she's like, I never really looked at it that way.
Because she never had.
Really? Okay. Well,
so that's
not everything is about you. I mean, I don't see Black people in in Chinese movies. I don't see Black people in Jackie Chan movies that don't have Chris Tucker in them, and I ain't mad at that because we don't be hanging in China.
Right.
Like stories aren't our stories, and there's nothing wrong with that. Lee's story is probably my favorite Jackie Chan story, and there ain't a single brother in that. There's not a single white person in that, and it's perfectly wonderful.
Yeah, but I think that's because we've learned to be open and accepting to other cultures, and being able to have that, being able to find things to relate to. But when you're the dominant culture and you don't have to find it because everything's catered to you already, it's easy to not have to think about that and just automatically saying like, "Oh, you're excluding me," because for one time, I'm not a part of the cast and crew. Like with us, it's a normal occurrence. It's like we go in expecting not to see Black people.
It's true.
So you know what I'm saying?
Like, what is that? Is he Black?
Right. So for us, it's like, well, let me find something that I can relate to. Like we talked about this the other day on the Below the Surface talk. We were looking for characters that we can relate to. Like, yeah, he must be Black. You hear how he talk, he must be Black.
We mentioned Panthro, but like
right.
Piccolo, we all know Piccolo is Black,
right?
Yeah. No doubt.
So from our lens, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, we can pick out stuff and just say like, oh yeah, he, even if he's not, we're gonna make him Black because I can relate to that. But when you're the dominant culture, it's hard to say. It's easier to say you excluding me because I'm not used to not being in anything. There's always a white character. There's never not, even in all the Black shows, there's always a white character shows up somewhere. It's the boss, it's the, it's something, right? It's the store clerk, it's somebody always shows up. But it's, you're right, exactly. But when you look at from the flip side, it's not always that a Black person. So like we talked about Friends the other day, like there's not one, it's in New York City, but there's not one Black person in the entire show.
And they didn't add anybody until they started getting heated.
Right. So
I watched Home Improvement sit outside Detroit and I didn't see no Black people. I was like, where I'm from? And nobody Black around. Okay. But let me ask you this, Greg. The staff it's an interesting choice of weapons. It's not exactly a very popular one. Now, myself and UNIQDNA, we're actually big Donatello fans, so we're probably some of the ones who dig the bow staff a bit more. But it's generally not a weapon we see that's used. It's generally a sword, some type of blade. Why the staff?
So partly like when you're coming up with this stuff, it's like you want something that's atypical.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I thought it was cool, like, so the staff, I don't know how if this technically works in real life, but it's like obsidian, because obsidian, they say, obsidian repels like negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like laced with like gold, with traces of gold in it. And in the story, it's got like a real, origin of how it was created or whatever. But I don't, like, you're literally character design. You're like throwing stuff up and trying to see what sticks. And I was like, I know I don't want her to have a sword.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1921. I don't want her to have a gun.
Right.
Because you always got to be thinking about what's, acceptable in case schools are looking at it or whatever. So it's like, what's something, for this all ages kind of book that, you can beat people up. You don't have to worry about, blood, you know what I'm saying? So it really, the staff like came, I was like, yeah, that would be perfect. And I thought of that early on because, I was like racking my brain, like, what do I, what do I give her? Is she just gonna have these hands or, but yeah, I like the staff and, what it symbolized. So I kind of rock with it.
Oh, that's what's up. So and if it's too much of a spoiler, you don't have to answer. So the obsidian and the gold, does that lend anything special to the character, or is that just purely a design that you just felt was beautiful for the art?
Without spoiling, like there's gonna be some powering up, kind of, so to speak.
Okay.
So, she's already like she's been trained, even though she's young. Her mother may have like this special kind of lineage, and so her mother's already trained. So she's she's nasty with the hands, she's nasty with the bow staff. But as she goes on this quest, and the stakes get deeper and deeper, like certain things will be unlocked. So, like I said, I can't really spoil, but yeah, there's more to
There's
it.
some leveling up going on.
Right. 4 episodes now.
Right.
There'll be some leveling up.
Awesome. So with that, and as you're telling me this, I'm getting. I'm probably sure it's not intentional, but for anyone that would potentially get like a cane from Kung Fu vibe, like, what are you doing writing wise to try to keep it as fresh and and original, as possible?
So I never thought about that one. But when you say that,
the way you describe it, young person adventure, no gun, no blade.
Yeah. So it's one of the things, coming up with stories and everything. I had like a professor in college that, had to break the hard reality down to me, which is that every story's been told. Like the basis for every story has been told. So I think what I try to do is kind of like personalize the story, add unique elements to the story. So, there were Black people that, escaped slavery and went and set up towns and little villages like all throughout the Southwest. You know what I mean? So we can see that. I'm adding certain things because I'm taking certain liberties because it is, like maybe some Chinese people that were, basically being enslaved to build railroads. Maybe they escaped and set up camp, so, I just wanted to add like certain things. There's certain stuff because there's going to be some stuff with the Grand Canyon It was like in the 1930s. You know, a guy reported that they found Egyptian artifacts. And have you guys heard of that?
Yes.
In the Grand Canyon. And so, you know, there is a part of the Grand Canyon that's blocked off where people aren't allowed in. You know, since people have said it might have been Chinese. The fact is, you know, most, you know, scholars actually admit that Columbus was like one of the last people to come to this part of the world. You know what I'm saying? You had African, Chinese, like you had all these different people that were already here. So I get to play, since y'all want to hide it and lie about it, I get to kind of play with, you know, some of those things. So, like I said, every story, I never set out to like rip off anything.
Of course.
You know, that coming of age quest type of thing has been done, you know.
The hero's journey. I mean, people criticize that. People love it. They love hearing various versions of the hero's journey, and everything. So there's no knocking it, because it's the strong basis for Star Wars. It's a strong basis for virtually every adventure
story.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like because it's not just, you know, I don't ever want to just be, you know, entertainment only. So I get a chance to do some exposure, right? So it's funny with Tuskegee Airs, me being a military brat, and then having, you know, like I'm like the first man in my family that didn't go to the military. So I've always heard of the Tuskegee Airmen, and we always knew a lot about the Tuskegee Airmen. So it was crazy to me when we did that. We, you know, released that story, how many people didn't know anything about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like verbalizing it on the interwebs, like over and over. And we had people from other countries. There was a lady, and she saw, you know, the Tuskegee Airs comic book. She ordered it in the Virgin Islands.
Wow.
She ordered the book, you know, we mailed it out or whatever. She got it. She inboxes me, and she's like, so I had no idea that there were, you know, a few of the pilots were from the Virgin Islands. And I was like, that's amazing. You know, I'm glad that, you know, we helped you figure that out. And then she took it a step further, and she was like, one of them was my uncle.
Wow.
And she didn't know, you know what I'm saying? Had no clue. And so, you know, it's like that kind of stuff. If you're dropping in, you know, just some of these little hints, like we put Olmec heads in issue 2 of Tuskegee Airs, you know, and we spoke about it. We didn't, you know, go deep into it, but, you know, people was like, is this real? And so if you're able to drop these little nuggets in, and people that really want to know are going to go Google it, you know what I mean? They're going to go search, and then you can actually, you know, I remember I went to HBCU, Grambling State, and, you know, you had those professors that was like, yeah, this is what you need to know to pass this test, but we're going to spend a very small amount of time on that. You're going to have to study that on your own, because I'm about to, like, really teach you some stuff.
Wake you up.
And I remember, like, the best stuff was when they put that information out, and then you would leave class and go run to the library and start, you know, like, searching it. And so if we're able to, you know, just drop stuff to where people are like, is that really real? Then, you know, it helps to open up. I call it like opening up these little portals in your mind that can help, you know, help you grow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, it reminds me of just recently Watchmen, when they did the whole Black Wall Street thing, and then I think it was the next day, or actually it was the same night. It was like the most Googled. It was like the most Googled thing in history, and so many people didn't know that it was real, and it was a real story, and it just opened up so many people's eyes to like what really happened. And, you know, so I think that's great that you guys are taking history and basically doing the same thing in comic books, And like, so these kids, you know, they pick up these homos and they're like, yo, is this real? Like, did this really happen? You know, and they want to do that research and stuff, especially kids, because you know, the kids nowadays, a lot of them don't want to do research, period. But
Right.
if you put it in a way that makes it interesting to them, and it's like, yo, I want to know more, I want to learn more. Because I mean, I know I was always like that as a kid. Like, I would find stuff that was interesting, or like stuff about my history and stuff like that. And I'm like, I spent the next 3 weeks like Googling, and you know, well, back then it was like Yahoo search or whatever, AOL search. But you know, just looking up stuff, going to the library, all that stuff. And so that's cool. Like, you guys are putting it in a way that like kids and even adults are like looking into their own history.
You hear this young blood Yahoo search? We had to bust them up. Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Right?
Oh yeah, we had
Microfiche.
those.
You remember
I never did microfiche, but we did the Encyclopedia Britannica. We had those.
Yes.
But yeah, we were one of the fortunate families. We got a computer early. I was like,
David, Gene, what this is going on? Gene,
yeah, I was probably like 4 or 5. Nah, I remember I was like probably like 4 or 5. We got the IBM PC-1 or whatever it was called, and I remember like there was like no search. I remember my dad was like, we're gonna log on to the internet, and it was just like pages you had to click through, whatever popped up. Like, you couldn't search for nothing, you couldn't type in no web bar, nothing.
Just... Y'all was balling. Is what you're telling me, man.
we were like the only one. I think we were like the only one on the block with a computer. It was like 1990. It was like,
out there on Netscape.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you were talking about Watchmen. It was so funny because that came out like, I think like a week after I released my book. And so I remember like, and I'm not using it as a gimmick or any of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't lead with it. You know, it's like,
right.
You know, oh, this is about, you know, Black Wall Street. I don't do that. But I do remember like looking and like, these you know,
right.
They stole my idea.
Because they led with it. They was like, first episode, here you go.
Yeah. But overall, I do, like you said, I thought it was great, man, because again, it's something I've known about for a long time. And I was just sitting here side-eyeing people that was like flipping out about it. Yeah. And then we over here, like I actually got, you know, I did like a radio show, like with one of the local radios out here. And because they wanted to talk about it, and they already knew about my book. And, you know, we was like picking it apart just from the standpoint of how they showed it, because we were upset. They didn't show the resistance parts. They just made it look like, you know,
it was a straight
like some black people that just got slaughtered or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they don't show that, you know, we were like super duper capable, and the whole thing came from us going down to the, you know, cops. Because remember, they had pulled a white dude. The Klan and them had pulled a white dude out of prison and lynched him. And so they were going to try to do that this time. And the black people was like, we're going to come down and hold down these cops.
Yeah.
And then cops and the state bombed us. So, yeah. But
it was the visual was, it was just very jarring. So,
yeah.
And then, like you said, you know, so many people didn't know. Some people, and there were so many people on Twitter, because I was on Twitter when I was watching it, and they were like, "Look at HBO making stuff up," and we're like, "No,
it was real."
Look at you not knowing nothing.
There ain't nothing made up.
I do like the fact that they did come back and they did like a little short comic about the actual event. Did you guys see that?
I did.
Yeah. So that made me feel better, because that's like the biggest part, man, is, you know, to tell the whole thing. A lot of times they paint it as, you know, like this evil, like this Ku Klux Klan type evil. And a lot of times it's not. Like I said earlier, it's methodical. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, they try to paint this Klan thing when it was the quote unquote regular people.
Right.
It wasn't a motivated thing. It was just, people were jealous. They found an excuse to go off of based on a lie, and they were going to take their feelings into their own hands. And like you said, it's cool that at least on the comic part that they show the truth as far as black people getting their guns and say, hey, we're not going to let you lynch this guy. We're not going to storm this police station, and the unfortunate results that happened afterwards.
And then also, I think the messed up part about it too is like the families never got restitution, and because they called it a riot, the families couldn't claim insurance on it because they labeled it a riot, so they could never get compensated for it.
Yeah.
Because just recently they just called it a massacre.
Yeah, they just recently changed it like last year, I think. Yeah. That's the I think that's the sad part. Like there's a podcast. It's actually called Black Wall Street 1921. I don't know if you guys heard it. If you haven't, you check it out. It's pretty dope. But like there's the woman that does it, she did she went like deep research into it. Like she found family members and like all types of stuff. And it's like I think it's like 15, 16 episodes, something like that. But she found some of the family members of like the grandkids and stuff like that of some of the people that were there. And like one lady was like, yeah, like I think it was her grandfather was there, and she was like, yeah, he owned like 2 hotels, he had this, he had that, like we lost everything. And she talked about how like he just never really recovered from that. Like he, they moved with family somewhere else across the country or whatever, and like he could never like get back on his feet. Like after that, like she said, like he got into like I think he went into depression, became an alcoholic, like all that stuff. And it was like, this dude was like, he was well off, he was prominent in the community, he owned all these different properties and everything, and it's like he lost it all and couldn't get it back. And like you said, it was like they tried to claim insurance, they couldn't get insurance. Like just just like I could imagine, I guess I can't imagine like the devastation of like, just losing it all and just like I gotta rebuild and start all over, especially in 1921.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
it's not like opportunities
easy.
were plentiful.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
Ironically, this is really cool. I just recently found out. I think it's my great grandparents actually were from Oklahoma. They owned we're finding out because right now they're trying to, I guess, see if we still have rights to this property. Mm-hmm. But they owned like all these different pieces of property, mineral deposits, all this stuff. And but I think like so far from what I've been able to see, it looks like in the 1920s they left and went to Missouri.
Wow.
And so my grandmother never really spoke about much of it. So I don't know how, if it's that same thing you were saying, David, where it's like you just kind of give up, what I'm saying? So it's interesting because, this just came up over the last month or so. Wow. And we're like really looking into it. And I'm like putting together like these parallels. I'm doing this story. Yeah. So one of my friends was like, yo, man, you might get some money out of it. I'm like, man, I'm really more interested in
the story.
Out what happened. You know what I'm saying? Because, that's the stuff that we really need to be able to, transfer.
Yeah. I think that's the most important. The money is nice, but the most important thing is the story. Because like a lot of, I don't know about you guys, but like I grew up feeling like I didn't have an identity for a long time because it was like I didn't know my history. My dad couldn't tell me. My mom couldn't tell me. My grandmother told me, like on my mom's side, she could tell me a pretty good amount and that was only because her mother was Native American. So they had that history, and then like her father was the son of a freed slave, And so like he had got all this land and all this stuff after like slavery got ended or whatever. Well, actually, I think he got free before slavery ended. But yeah, she would tell me stories like stuff like that. But it was never like the full story. It would just always be like, yeah, you know, your great grandfather, you know, he had like 100 acres. And, you know, the story is that he was the slave master's son, but you know, we can't prove it and all that stuff. And I'm just like, you just randomly just gonna drop that and not tell me anything else? Like, I need to know more details than that. But like, you know, it was like stuff like that. I was like, I don't even care about the land. You know, I'm more interested in that story of like, yo, well, like, you know, what happened? Like, what was he really the slave master's son? Like, what, you know, what does that whole story look like? Where did he come from? Where, you know, all those different things.
David's great grandfather was Chicken George.
What was the dude on the Boondocks? Catcher Freeman.
Catcher Freeman. But
Well,
yeah,
100% right. Those the knowledge of self, you know, the knowledge of family, it's vital, and that's you know, I was blessed to have a lot of that from my maternal side, and I make sure that my kids know, you know, from the African side to, you know, the 3 Native American tribes that were made out of, you know, comprised of, like, you know, my kids know where they come from, and that's very vital. But back to Sadiqah, when you are, you know, framing this story, and people want to know that they're going to get it, when do they get it? This is the second book, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's tricky because the first one was called Issue 0, like the origin. So the second one is Issue 1.
Issue 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Book fans, we're used to Issue 0s.
Yeah.
So the Kickstarter launches on the 18th, a few days from now. We are like 2/3 done with, you know, all the art. It's colored, all of that. So over the next month, we plan on getting a good amount more done while the Kickstarter is running. Hopefully, we'll be rounding it up, finishing all the bells and whistles by the end of October. But I do know, like last time, my book was done when I launched the Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. But I know from Tuskegee Airs, it's like it's better to give yourself a little bit of extra time.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm setting, you know, the goal to where we'll definitely be sending it out in, you know, by the end of January.
Okay.
But, you know, my plan is to have it done before that.
All right. And if somebody wants to get Issue 0 while they're waiting for, you know, Kickstarter for Issue 1, is it available currently?
Yeah. You can go to my website. I have a little publishing company. It's called Platform L7, and it's just the letter L, the number 7. So platforml7.com. You can go there. You can order it, and I'm shipping it out to you.
Platforml7.com. And will the Kickstarter be announced when it goes live? Are you going to announce that on Facebook, Twitter, all outlets?
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook. The algorithms are so wild right now. What we've learned is basically like Facebook, if you're not, like, for your business page or your product page, if you're not paying for ads, then you're going to be severely limited on who's going to see it. So I've been posting. I'm probably going to post like every day this week. There's Kickstarter, I think, takes that in mind. So if you go to like my Instagram page right now, the last post that I made, there's actually a link that you can go in and click that link. And then it just asks for like your name, your email address or whatever. And then when the project launches, they'll send you out an email.
An email. Okay. So you can sign up for the email list to get notified. Fantastic.
Right. Basically, I said it. You said it way better than I did.
Oh, my job. My job is to say it well.
Yeah, you did good.
To recap. So what's your plans for, I mean, obviously you're gonna do issue 1, and then what's your plans for Sadiqah's story? Like, is this gonna be 2 volumes, 3 volumes?
Oh man, it's one of those things.
Graphic novel.
So yeah. What I'll do, like once I get the 3rd or issue 2, so backwards. Once I get that done, I'll probably package all 3 of them into a graphic novel. For the first arc of the story, it's 6, 6 issues. So that could end up being 2 graphic novels or whatever. I'm not ready just yet to send it off to like start trying to pitch it, but I'd love for it to be animation or even live action. I think it's something that's kind of necessary. A lot of these stories that we're seeing, I feel like if we can get it to that animation part or live action, it'll be huge. And you're seeing that a lot. Like a lot of like Netflix is adapting a lot of comic book stuff. A lot of people might not even know, like that Old Guard. Did y'all see that? Mm-hmm. That recently came out. Yeah, that's like a comic book. There's a lot of comic book stuff. So, hopefully, I could go that way, or even a series. That would be great.
And then also, what's the emotional connection with the main character? The meaning behind her name, and then also the illustration of the character kind of looks like your daughter a little bit. So what is that connection, and what kind of characteristics does the character have with your daughter? So,
like, honestly, I have a stepdaughter, and I say that with tons of affection. This isn't, but she was actually modeled after, my stepdaughter. So Ayana from Tuskegee Heirs is the main character. Well, not the main character, but she's the leader of the team.
Right.
That's my daughter. This is my biological daughter, right? So Sadiqah was modeled after my stepdaughter. And what were you? The name. So, it's an Arabic name, and it has Arabic words are a little bit different. So it's about, the word means honesty, but like sincerity is actually mixed in. So they'll have like one word that'll like be like combining 3 words for, for us. So that's where the name comes from. And just the emotional, like I took some of, like my stepdaughter, she's feisty, really, really super capable, already got her master's, like all these cool things. So I take little things, I think always, and I say this to people all the time. I'm not going to ever say that I'm great or perfect at it, but if you're writing like, a female character, you have to take a lot of care when you do that. It's just like when people write, like a white person doing a black character, we can see when it, it's corny. It's not, what I'm saying?
We can tell when there's empathy and when there's not.
Right. And so women have that, and I hate to sound like a caveman, but, women see that too, right? Mm-hmm. And we're so used to being, like marginalized in how they tell our stories, and we're so linear, and, so it's like, I'm saying all this to say that whenever I do a character, any character, but especially young women or women in general, I'm always trying to like really take character traits and stuff from people that I actually know. That's really real. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want, you'll read a comic sometimes and you'll be like, man, a dude totally wrote that. And, women don't talk like that. Young ladies don't talk, you know what I'm saying? They don't think that way. So I try to, always pull from people in certain areas. Sometimes it's a mix of people, but, so it's more of a realistic, their responses are realistic, their cares and their ambitions are realistic.
Fantastic. No, that's a great way to put it, because I think it's too often that's overlooked. That there's often men writing stories about women as the main characters, and And you can tell when someone did not create something with this level of empathy or care, for how they think, how that people, that gender, whatever, how they think, how they act, and being able to model that after someone, multiple, young women that are so important to you in your life is fantastic.
Yeah. Another part of that, like you can, especially in comics, you can look at how they depict women, right? So it's like you're a superhero walking around in a leotard, you know what I'm saying? Like or like a one-piece bathing suit or a bikini, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, who's fighting crime naked? Like, I can't imagine fighting crime naked. But you see it all the time. Yeah, it's like we have plenty of people, like parents, because believe it or not, like a lot of people that aren't really into comic books buy our comic books and they support our comic books, and they'll tell you like straight up, like, you get that woman that's like, oh yeah, these girls got clothes on, I want this, because it's like, you're tired of seeing women be objectified,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up this special here with Greg Burnham. I want to thank you, Greg, for your time. And again, folks, you can find the Search for Sadiqah issue 0 at platforml7.com. You can follow Greg on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and keep your eyes out for that link he mentioned in his Instagram. Get your name, get your email in there so you can get up-to-date information when the Kickstarter for issue 1 goes live. Get your orders in. I don't know if Greg's going to sign any of them. I don't know. Check that out.
Put him on the spot.
So here's the thing, man. We was like, with
I'm sure that's going to be a perk on there. I hope that's going to be a perk.
That's got to like the level like $500 perk.
So see what had happened was, like, the Tuskegee airs, we were like, yeah, we're going to sign everything. It's going to be great. And then we had like, 2,000 people. And then you're like,
I've seen videos of Kurt Angle signing all the copies of WWE 2K. Like, oh, my hand hurts.
Yeah, man. Oh man, you go to New York Comic Con. We might sign like 2,000 autographs that weekend. Because when you come to our table, we sign everything.
Yeah.
And your hands be like, it's tough, man. It's fun though.
Like Sinbad from the movie House Gatsby.
There you go.
Oh, that note. Make sure you check out the Kickstarter for the Search for Sadiqah. It sounds awesome. I can't wait to support it. I can't wait to back it. And I can't wait for that new issue of Tuskegee Airs to drop too.
Which one? Because we dropped it.
That's right, you did drop. I gotta buy it. I'm behind.
I bought it.
Yeah, I already got mine.
I gotta buy the latest one.
We got 2 covers too.
I bought 2 copies and gave it away.
You gave it away?
I gave it away.
There it is.
Both of them?
Yeah. No, I bought issue 1, 2, 3, and 4 and gave them both away.
Well, we'll see what we'll have to do about
doing like a floating
slow motion.
We'll see what we have to do about Greg signing those, and maybe we can do a giveaway.
Yeah.
I do sign, like, for giveaways. I'll get Marcus. I'll drive all the way to his house. He decided to move out to the boonies, but I'll drive out there. Like, for giveaways, stuff like that, we'll sign definitely.
Yeah, we'll have a Jeek get a giveaway soon.
Most definitely.
Cool.
Well, folks,
I want my signed copy too.
with the fan pop, what's going on with that?
Oh, the Funko Pop. We're redoing that giveaway. Don't worry. I didn't see you. I didn't see you put an entry in no issue if you really wanted them.
What do you mean? put it on. I was like one of the first ones to comment, like, "Yo, I need that."
Yo, yeah.
So this is Sadiqah. So the guy Viet Hein, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he does these. He gets like a, they got the DIY pops.
Yeah,
and then he builds it basically by hand.
Right.
So I'm gonna have some of these for Sadiqah. They are kind of expensive because he's doing it all by hand.
Yeah.
So last campaign, I think I had like 6 people, and then this is
nice.
Brianna from Tuskegee Years.
I
got him to do. I got him to do them just for me, because they are expensive. We're trying to get like a solution, because we don't like to sell stuff like overpriced like that.
Of course.
And it's nothing against him; he's great, but we just want to figure out how to get it to where it's more affordable for the people.
Of course.
Yeah.
See that?
Right now, I'd be like, because people kept asking, and I was like, and then I had to like, yeah, it was like, what's up? But I was just
like, yo, hit me in the DM, bro. Like, I need that.
We're looking into some 3D printing options. I might be adding a stretch goal for like a little Sadiqah figure for the Kickstarter, because I got a guy who's like, he wants to do it really, really bad, and I was like, well, if we can make it make sense.
But what we need is, if Funko Pop is listening.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, a couple, I guess it's been like a couple of years now, Marcus like did some designs, and people, we put it on the internet just because, and people was going crazy. Somebody reached out. They were at that time, and probably still, I don't know if they, think we have enough, of a fan base, because, this stuff is really based off of what's popular.
Of course.
Yeah. So one day, I feel like I should own a little bit of stock in their company, as many of them as I have.
I got way too many, but we're not going to talk about that today.
Well, see that, folks? That is an artist, a creator looking out for your wallet to make it happen. So that's going to wrap it up. Thank Ishmael Street of That's Not a Noun for not only for being here, but for the wonderful introduction to our guest, Greg Burnham. You can follow us at Jeek Nation on Twitter, Facebook at Jeek Nation. You can find us on any podcast network or virtually. If you don't, hit us up, DM us, email us at jeeknation@gmail.com. And until next time, love, peace, and get on that Kickstarter.
We did.
Thank you guys for having me, man.